The galaxy was wide and endless, stretching across black space with glowing stars shining like lanterns in the dark sky. Countless worlds turned slowly around suns of every color, and civilizations lived and fought and dreamed under those lights. Yet for a moment the galaxy seemed strangely quiet, almost too quiet, as if the void itself was waiting for something to happen, something that would shake every world and every empire, something that would not be forgotten. In the Grand Council of the Zalorian Alliance, tall figures with shimmering silver skin stood inside a great chamber of crystal walls, their voices low but urgent. They whispered of a rumor carried by traitors and spies, a rumor that spoke of a world at the edge of the spiral arms, a small blue world called Earth, a place once dismissed as weak, primitive, and unworthy of fear. Yet now the whispers told a different story. They told of a weapon so large and so powerful that even the strongest fleets might tremble before it. The Zalorian leader raised his long hand, silencing the others. His glowing eyes narrowed as he repeated the rumor aloud. The humans have built a battleship, not a simple vessel, but something greater, greater than what any known race had dared to build, greater than even the war machines of the Drax Imperium, who had ruled the outer sector for centuries. The silence that followed carried more weight than words. For even the proudest empires knew that if such a ship was real, then balance itself could shatter. Far away in the dark halls of the Drax Imperium, warlords wrapped in heavy armor pounded their fists against steel tables, anger burning in their eyes. For they too had heard the whispers, and they would not accept the thought of humans rising to challenge them. To them Earth was nothing more than prey, a weak race that once begged for peace. Yet now rumors spread like wildfire, saying that Earth had risen in secret, building strength in shadows while the galaxy ignored them. And now, perhaps it was too late to stop them. Across the Orion Confederacy, merchants and explorers gathered in hidden ports, their voices filled with fear and wonder. They spoke of the ship with awe. Some claimed it was larger than a moon. Others swore it carried weapons that could tear through shields with a single strike. Some said its engines left trails of light brighter than suns, while others believed it could vanish into hyperspace without leaving a trace. None knew the truth, but the mystery only made the fear stronger. And in every corner of the galaxy, the same words were whispered: Earth has a battleship. The galaxy had seen wars before, endless wars fought between empires who believed themselves eternal. Fleets had clashed and stars had burned. Yet this felt different. This felt like the beginning of something that could not be measured, for no one had expected Earth to rise so fast. No one had thought humans could create something that might make even the greatest empires hesitate. And now the galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting, listening, watching the dark edges of space. In the quiet shadow of the Trillion Nebula, a group of wandering miners looked up from their work, their ships hovering near glowing clouds of gas, when suddenly a light appeared at the edge of their scanners. A light that was too sharp, too steady, too deliberate to be a star. The miners froze, staring at their screens as the light grew stronger, larger, closer, and though they could not yet see it clearly, they felt a weight in their chests, as if something massive was pressing against them. From across the void, they sent messages out into the networks, warning of a great object moving slowly through the stars. The warning spread fast, carried by relays and beacons, reaching traders, fleets, and even councils. The alien leaders grew tense, trying to confirm what was approaching, but none of their sensors could measure it properly, as if the ship itself was cloaked in strange energy, bending signals and hiding its true form. Only the light at its edge betrayed its path, a glow like fire moving against the black. In the capital of the Oran Dominion, the Queen of Golden Wings sat upon her high throne, listening to the reports. Her advisors trembled as they described the readings. They said the ship was vast, far beyond the scale of their own battleships. They said its power source was unlike anything seen before. They said it might be alive, and when they spoke the word Earth, silence filled the throne room. The Queen leaned forward, her voice soft yet heavy with fear. If this is true, then the galaxy will never be the same. Far beyond the reach of councils and thrones, smugglers and pirates floated near the rim worlds, watching the same strange light growing stronger. They were used to danger, used to ships and fleets and battles. But this felt different. This felt like a storm rising before them, a storm too large to escape, and many of them turned their ships away, whispering prayers to stars and gods they did not believe in, for they knew something terrible and magnificent was moving across the dark. Even in the hidden monasteries of the Kalari monks, who lived only for silence and truth, the visions had begun. Their seers opened their eyes after centuries of stillness, whispering words that echoed across stone halls. They spoke of fire and thunder. They spoke of a ship that carried the will of an entire world. They spoke of humanity stepping into the stars not as prey, but as hunters. And their voices carried to the stars as warnings to those who would not listen. The galaxy waited. The galaxy trembled in silence. And then on the edge of the Valon system, the truth revealed itself. A shadow emerged from hyperspace, slow, massive, and unstoppable. It slid from the void like a giant awakening. Black metal gleaming faintly under distant starlight, engines burning with light that pulsed like the heart of a star. The alien fleets stationed nearby froze, their scanners screaming with readings they could not understand, their commanders staring in disbelief at the impossible shape before them. It was there at last, not rumor, not whisper, not dream, but real, Earth's battleship, the first of its kind, standing silent yet heavy with power, a predator watching, waiting, daring the galaxy to take the first step. The galaxy that once ignored humanity now held its breath, for every empire knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The alien fleets waited in silence across the dark sea of stars, their ships glowing with strange colors, green light, red light, sharp blue lines that cut across the void. Every race that lived under the Galactic Union had gathered here, waiting for the human battleship that they feared, waiting to see if the stories were true, waiting to learn if Earth really had built something that could shake the galaxy. The commanders of these fleets whispered through their channels, each one thinking the same question. Could this single human ship hold against the armada of worlds? Could a race that was so young defeat them all? Many wanted to believe no. Many wanted to believe the stories were only human lies. But deep inside their hearts there was doubt. Deep inside their souls there was fear. The alien council ship floated in the center, massive and glowing with thousands of windows. The counselors looked nervous as they watched their fleet spread out in formation. Their voices carried weight and power, but even they could not calm the tremor in their hearts. One of them finally spoke. The humans must not be allowed to pass. The humans must be taught fear. If we let them rise, we will all be slaves tomorrow. Another shouted back. But what if the rumors are true? What if their ship is beyond anything we know? What if it cannot be stopped? The chamber turned cold. Silence followed. None of them had an answer. Far away, cutting through the emptiness of space, the human battleship kept moving. It was silent, but every star seemed to dim around it. Its shape was unlike the alien ships, sharper, harder, built with purpose and strength. Its black hull reflected no light. Its engines burned with a silver flame that left no trail. The ship moved like a shadow, quiet but unstoppable, as if space itself bent aside to let it pass. Inside the human ship, the crew sat in silence. They knew what waited ahead. They knew the galaxy was watching. The captain stood at the command bridge, his face calm though his eyes burned with steel. He turned to his officers. Remember why we are here. Remember that they do not believe in us. They think humans are weak. They think Earth is soft. Today, we show them what Earth really is. Today, we show them that humanity cannot be broken. The officers nodded. Not one of them spoke, but their hearts pounded with the same fire. Each man and woman carried the weight of Earth. Each carried the dreams of billions. Behind them, their families, their homes, their world. Everything rested on their shoulders, yet none of them bent. None of them looked away. As the battleship neared the edge of alien space, the first alien fleet came into view. 1,000 ships stretched like a wall of light. Weapons charged, shields glowing, their commander sent out a warning. Turn back, humans. You are not welcome here. Turn back or be destroyed. The words carried threat, but also fear. The human captain answered with only one sentence. Humanity does not turn back. The alien commander hesitated. His claws gripped the rail before him. He wanted to fire. He wanted to erase this human shadow before it came closer. But deep inside, he feared what would happen. He feared what the legends whispered. He feared what the council feared most, that this ship was the dawn of something greater. The human ship kept moving, closer and closer. The alien fleet opened fire. Beams of light shot across the dark. Missiles cut through space. The fire of 1,000 ships filled the void. Yet when it touched the human battleship, it broke. The black hull drank the light. The missiles shattered against invisible shields. The ship did not slow. It did not move. It simply advanced. The aliens panicked. Their voices filled the channels. Nothing was working. Nothing could pierce the human hull. Nothing could break its shields. Their formation collapsed as the battleship pressed forward. And then with a single command, the human captain ordered return fire. One pulse of silver energy burst from the battleship. It swept across the alien fleet like a wave. Ships crumbled. Shields cracked. 100 vessels turned to dust in seconds. The silence that followed was heavier than death. The alien council watched in horror, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. One shouted, "Impossible! No weapon can hold such power." Another whispered, "This is only one ship. What if they build more? What if Earth becomes an empire? What if we're already too late?" The chamber shook with panic. Some demanded retreat. Some demanded surrender. Others called for total war, but none could agree. None could hide from the truth that had just been shown. The galaxy had trembled. Inside the human ship, the crew stood firm. But they felt the weight of what they had done. They had shattered an entire fleet in a single strike. They knew every world in the galaxy had just seen their strength. They knew war was no longer a question. War was a certainty. But they did not fear, for they believed in humanity. They believed that no matter what came next, humans would stand, humans would fight, and humans would never bow. The captain turned once more to his crew, his voice steady. "This is only the beginning. They will come at us with everything they have. But we are ready, because Earth does not kneel, Earth does not break, and no power in the stars will change that." The battleship moved deeper into alien space, its shadow spreading across the galaxy. And everywhere it went, the universe whispered the same truth. The humans had come, and nothing would ever be the same again. The great ship of Earth moved forward into the darkness of space, carrying the weight of every hope and every fear of mankind. And the silence around the ship was not the silence of peace, but the silence before a storm, and the crew inside the steel walls felt it in their bones as their eyes watched the glowing stars ahead. The alien fleets that had once mocked the name of Earth now gathered again, whispering through the void with their strange signals and their strange machines, and every movement of theirs showed fear, but also desperation, and the leaders of those fleets spoke to each other in voices filled with doubt, for they remembered how the first clash had ended, and they knew that one human ship had the power to crush their pride like dry leaves under a boot. Inside the ship, the human commander walked slowly across the command deck, his hands tight, behind his back, his eyes hard as stone, and every soldier who looked at him felt a strange calm, because he was not just a man, he was the will of Earth itself, standing tall against the galaxy. And though the enemy outside was vast, the commander's steps made it feel small. The ship's engines burned with a low hum that echoed through every hall and every chamber, and the crew sat at their stations, their fingers on glowing panels, and their minds focused on the orders to come, and no one spoke of fear, for fear had no place here, only resolve had a place here, and the resolve of humans was stronger than steel. In the enemy councils there was debate, and their leaders shouted at one another in fear and rage, and they said no world, no race should wield such defiance, and they said the ship must be broken no matter the cost. And yet none dared move first, for they had seen how the human weapons cut through fleets like fire cuts through dry grass, and they wondered if it was wiser to kneel than to bleed. The commander knew this silence well, for he had seen it before in wars of Earth, when enemies gathered their strength yet hesitated to strike. And he spoke to his crew with words sharp and steady, and he said, "The galaxy waits for us to show them the path, and we will show them not with words, but with action. And when we move, they will know why Earth cannot be bent." The soldiers answered with a roar of voices, and the sound shook the deck as though the ship itself was alive and ready to leap into fire. and their eyes burned with the same fire that once lit the great armies of history, and no alien could match that fire, for it was born from centuries of struggle and survival. The ship's weapons shifted into place like beasts preparing to hunt, and every barrel and every launcher glowed faintly with power, and the void around seemed to hold its breath, and the stars themselves seemed to draw back, as if they feared what was about to unfold, and still the aliens hesitated, circling like predators who had found prey that suddenly bared fangs sharper than theirs. The commander raised his hand and gave a single order to advance, not in haste, but with steady force, and the ship pushed deeper into enemy space like a mountain sliding across the void, and its shadow stretched across the fleets waiting ahead, and the sight of that shadow struck fear into the hearts of those who watched, for it was not the shadow of a single ship, but the shadow of a world that refused to fall. In the lower deck, soldiers prepared for the worst, strapping armor to their bodies, checking their weapons, and whispering vows to themselves, and to the earth they left behind, and they did not speak of death, they spoke of victory, and if death came, it would come only as the price of victory, and not as a surrender. The aliens sent signals filled with threats and false promises, saying turn back or be destroyed, and they promised mercy if Earth bent its knee, and still the ship of Earth moved forward slow and steady like a tide that no wall could hold, and their promises fell into emptiness, for humans had heard such words before in old wars, and had answered the same way every time with fire and steel. The commander listened to those signals with calm eyes, and then he gave the order to silence them, and the ship cut every channel and left only the voice of Earth itself, which was action and silence louder than any words. And in that moment, the aliens knew that this battle would not be won by words, it would be won by courage, and in courage the humans had no equal. The stars ahead began to shift as the alien fleets slowly opened their wings of war, preparing at last to strike, though their movements showed hesitation and fear, and the human crew watched the screens as the enemy grew in number, and still the commander stood without a tremor, and his voice came again calm and sharp. And he said, remember, this is not only a fight for us, it is a fight for Earth, and for every child yet to be born, and we will not fail. The soldiers roared once more, and the echo of that roar carried through the steel halls like thunder in the void, and the alien fleets heard it through their machines, and it shook them, though they could not understand the word, for they felt the spirit inside the sound, and that spirit was stronger than any weapon they had built. The ship advanced, and the silence stretched thin like glass ready to shatter, and every soldier felt the moment near when the first shot would be fired and the galaxy would tremble once again. The alien fleet gathered in the darkness of space, their ships glowing with strange blue fire, each vessel designed with sharp edges like blades made to cut through the void. The commanders of the alien empire whispered in fear as they watched the human battleship, still floating calmly in the center of the galaxy, its size dwarfing even their largest war cruiser, its engines silent, but alive with hidden power. The Council of Alien Warlords had sent their best armada to destroy the humans. They believed this single strike would end the rising threat from Earth and prove that no one could challenge the Empire. Thousands of ships lined up in formation, their weapons humming with energy, ready to unleash destruction upon a human vessel. Every alien soldier on board their ships was told the same words: destroy the humans before they rise too high. Inside the human battleship, the crew worked with steady hands, their faces calm, yet their hearts burning with courage. Captain Eric stood at the center of the command deck, his voice strong. As he gave orders, every officer obeyed without hesitation, because they trusted him completely. Screens across the bridge lit up, showing the massive enemy fleet approaching from all sides. The aliens wanted to surround them and crush them with numbers. The humans knew this moment would decide everything. If they failed, Earth would be lost. If they succeeded, the galaxy would never forget the day a single human ship faced the largest fleet ever gathered in history. The alien commander gave the signal. Their fleet charged forward like a storm of fire. Thousands of weapons fired beams of plasma rockets of burning light and storms of energy that shook the space around them, all aimed at the single human battleship. The void itself seemed to scream as the weapons roared forward. But the human ship moved with grace that shocked every alien eye. The giant battleship twisted and turned with impossible precision, as if guided by instinct. Beams of death missed by inches. Rockets exploded harmlessly against its shields, and every movement made the alien commanders realize something they had never thought possible. This was not just a warship, it was a beast built to survive. Captain Eric raised his hand. Fire, he commanded, and the humans struck back. From the side of the battleship, giant cannons lit the void, each shot glowing like a small sun. The beams ripped through the alien ships, tearing metal. Like paper, explosions filled the black sky. One after another, the alien fleet shook as dozens of ships were destroyed in the first wave. The aliens did not retreat. They believed their numbers would still overwhelm the humans. So they pressed forward, screaming in anger. Their warlords ordered them to close and surround the humans and crush them at close range. Hundreds of alien ships tried to block every escape route. But the battleship moved again, its engines blazing brighter than stars at speed beyond what anyone believed possible. The humans had prepared for this moment for years. Their weapons were powerful, but their minds were sharper. They used tactics no alien could predict, moving through the battlefield like hunters instead of prey. Every alien trap failed. Every attempt to surround them was broken. The human ship cut through the enemy like a blade through water. Still, the aliens did not stop. They screamed with fury, their voices echoing across the communication lines, demanding victory. They fired everything they had until space itself burned with endless explosions. Yet the battleship endured. Its shields held strong, glowing with golden energy, as if Earth itself was protecting its warriors. Inside, the human ship tension grew. Each crew member pushed their limits. Some shouted commands, some worked controls with lightning speed. Sweat ran down faces. But no one gave up. No one broke their focus, because they knew this battle would echo across time, and they wanted Earth to be remembered as unbreakable. The alien commander, in his throne of steel, slammed his fist in rage. He could not understand how one ship could resist the power of thousands. He shouted for reinforcements, but before the message could spread, the human battleship unleashed its secret weapon. The core of the ship opened, and from its heart came a wave of pure energy, bright and golden. It expanded outward like a storm, covering miles of space. Alien ships, caught in its light, began to fall. Their systems failing, their weapons dying, their engines shutting down. One after another, the once proud fleet turned into silent wrecks, floating helpless in the dark. Panic spread across the alien armada. Some tried to flee, some begged for mercy, but the humans did not chase them. Instead, they stood in the middle of the battlefield like a mountain, unshaken, their ship glowing like a sun that refused to die. The galaxy trembled that day, not just because of the battle, but because of the message it carried. One human ship had faced thousands, and it had not fallen. One human crew had stared into the eyes of the Empire and had not blinked. Captain Eric stood tall as the last enemy ship exploded, his crew silent, as they watched the battlefield now filled with burning wrecks and drifting metal. He spoke slowly, but his words carried power. Let the galaxy know Earth will not kneel. Let them know humanity will rise. His crew raised their voices together, shouting with pride and strength. The sound carried through the halls of the battleship, echoing across the void like thunder. Every surviving alien who heard that sound felt fear in their bones. The battle was won, but the war was not over. The humans knew the Empire would send more forces. The humans knew they had painted a target on their back, but none of them felt fear. They felt something else, a fire inside that told them they were no longer just defenders of Earth. They were champions of humanity. Far away across the galaxy, alien worlds whispered in fear. Some cheered in secret, hoping the humans would free them from the Empire. Others planned revenge. But all of them knew one truth: the galaxy would never be the same again. And in the silence after the battle, the human battleship drifted among the wreckage, its lights shining like a beacon, calling to every star, calling to every world, warning every enemy that Earth had awakened, and Earth would not stop. The battleship of Earth now moved deeper into the galaxy, and everywhere its presence was felt like a heavy wave that pressed against the stars, and the silence of space trembled under its path, and all who looked at the massive human ship felt both fear and respect, and the whispers of its power spread across every world and station. On the command bridge, the human captain stood tall, with calm eyes, and he watched the screens as signals from other empires came in begging for talks, and some even demanded that the ship turn back. But the captain did not answer quickly. He let the silence weigh on them, and he waited for the right time to respond while his crew kept steady with hands firm on every control. The crew felt the pressure of being the center of attention in the galaxy, yet they also felt pride and unity, for they knew their ship was the symbol of human will, and no one could break that will, and no one could bend their spirit. The engines hummed like thunder locked in steel, and the weapon systems glowed, with silent fire ready to strike if needed. Far across the galaxy, alien leaders gathered in hidden chambers, and they argued with sharp voices about the ship of Earth. Some feared that a single human vessel already matched the power of entire fleets, and if Earth had more hidden away, then no empire could stand against them. Others argued that humans should be destroyed before they could grow stronger, but the fear in their eyes betrayed their words. Among the stars, a scout fleet from the Dominion tried to test the strength of the human ship, and they approached in stealth, but the sensors of the battleship lit them up at once, and in a single sweep the human weapons cut through them, with light brighter than suns, and no enemy ship survived to tell the tale, and this display of power echoed across the galaxy like thunder that does not fade. Inside the battleship, the crew knew they had crossed a line. For now, no one could deny their place, and enemies would come harder, but so too would allies begin to rise, for strength draws. Both fear and loyalty and humanity had shown strength unlike anything before. The captain gathered his officers and spoke with calm, steady words that humanity did not come to destroy, but they came to defend their right to exist and to be free among the stars. The officers nodded with fire in their eyes, for they believed the same truth, and they carried that truth in every action they made. The medical wing healed the wounded from the last fight, the engineers reinforced the armor with new alloys, and the pilots sharpened their skills and training, for they all knew the battles ahead would not be easy, but they had faith in themselves and in the unity of Earth. Back on alien worlds, citizens whispered about humans. Some called them monsters who wielded weapons like gods, but others saw them as hope for freedom, for many empires ruled with cruelty, and slaves prayed for a force strong enough to break their chains. In the shadows of the galaxy, those whispers began to form into secret movements that looked to Earth as a light in the dark. Meanwhile, the Dominion grew restless. After losing its fleet to one ship, they gathered more vessels, more soldiers, more weapons, and they swore to crush humanity once and for all. And they declared to the galaxy that the battleship of Earth was a threat to every world, but their words were shaken with fear, because they had seen what happened when a ship moved against them. On the command bridge of the battleship, the human captain received countless warnings and threats, yet he remained calm, for he knew fear was their weapon, but also their weakness. He ordered the ship to press onward toward the heart of the Dominion, because he believed running would only invite more attacks, while facing them head-on would send a message that Earth would never bow. The crew felt both fear and courage at the order, but they followed without hesitation, for they trusted the captain, and they trusted each other. And in that trust, they found strength greater than any weapon. The ship roared forward with engines blazing, and every star seemed to shake at its passage, like space itself was alive and afraid. The Dominion gathered their armada in a massive ring of fire around their central world. Thousands of ships waited with weapons locked, ready to erase the humans. Yet deep inside, their commanders doubted, for they remembered how easily the scout fleet had fallen, and no one could forget the sight of the human guns tearing through steel like paper. As the battleship neared the Dominion world, the crew prepared in silence. Their hearts beat hard in their chests, but their minds stayed focused. They checked weapons, shields, engines. Every system was polished like glass, ready for what was to come. The captain stood in the center like a pillar of stone, his voice calm, as he told them that today they would not only fight for Earth, but for every world that dreamed of freedom. Then the Dominion fleet moved in swarms like dark clouds, and the first wave of fire lit up the void, but the human battleship stood firm, shields glowing like a second sun, and then the guns of Earth answered with light so fierce it turned darkness in a day. Entire enemy lines vanished under the storm of fire, and the galaxy once again trembled as the legend of Earth grew larger. But still wave after wave came, and the crew held their ground, fighting with all their spirit. And the ship shook under the storm, yet it did not break. It moved like a beast of steel, and fire striking again, and again carving paths through the enemy fleets, while the Dominion commanders screamed in fear and disbelief. As the battle raged, whispers spread across the galaxy faster than the fight itself, that the battleship of Earth faced the Dominion Armada alone and did not fall, and for many oppressed peoples across the stars that whisper turned into a roar of hope, and rebellion began to spark in corners, once dark, for they saw that even the strongest empires could tremble. Inside the bridge, the captain clenched his hand on the control rail, and his eyes burned with steady fire. He knew this battle was only the beginning, for once the galaxy saw what one ship could do, they would wonder how many more Earth had, and fear would spread deeper than any wound. The ship pressed forward, still cutting through the storm with human courage unbroken, and the galaxy watched in silence as the fate of empires began to shift in the light of Earth's fire. The galaxy was silent as the Earth battleship drifted through the void, with its shadow stretching across broken fleets and shattered worlds. The enemies who had once mocked humans now whispered in fear, their voices trembling as they spoke of the steel giant that had survived every trap and every ambush. The ship was not only a machine of war, it was a symbol of defiance, and every light on its surface burned like a warning to those who dare challenge it. Inside the battleship, the soldiers moved with a calm rhythm, each step echoing with purpose. They had fought for weeks without rest, yet their eyes held a fire that no alien mind could understand. The captain stood at the front of the command deck, his voice steady as he gave orders that carried across the halls. He did not speak of glory or revenge. He spoke of survival and of Earth, the home that waited for them beyond the endless stars. The aliens, however, were not ready to give up. They gathered in secret councils, their ships scattered across hidden sectors, their leaders cloaked in fear and rage. They had underestimated humans again and again. They had thought them weak, soft creatures chained by emotions, but those very emotions had forged something unstoppable. They decided that one last strike must be made, one final desperate attempt to break the human spirit before the legend of the battleship grew too large for the galaxy to contain. On a ruined moon deep in the edge of the Orion sector, an alien warlord slammed his claw against a table, his voice filled with venom. As he spoke of the humans, he demanded unity from his divided allies. He demanded sacrifice for victory. He promised that if they destroyed the Earth battleship, they would crush not only a machine, but also the hope of a world. Yet even as he spoke, many of his followers doubted their own strength. They had seen the fire of human soldiers. They had seen them fight even when death was certain, and that memory gnawed at their hearts. Meanwhile, inside the battleship, the crew prepared for the unknown. The engineers checked the engines, the pilots studied maps of the stars, and the soldiers sharpened their weapons. None knew when or where the next strike would come, but they felt it in their bones. The tension was heavy in the air. Yet there was no fear, only readiness. One soldier whispered to another that the ship itself seemed alive, as if it shared their will, as if it wanted to fight alongside them. When the attack came, it was sudden. The stars around the battleship flickered as enemy ships, uncloaked by the hundreds, they fired beams of light that lit the dark void like burning rivers. The battleship shook under the force, but it did not fall. Instead, its cannons roared back, tearing holes through alien steel with thunder that echoed across the stars. Explosions bloomed like fire flowers, and the void was filled with screams, both human and alien. The aliens had brought monstrous war machines, huge constructs powered by stolen suns, weapons that could crack moons. Yet even those titans were forced back by the relentless fury of the battleship. The human crew fought as if every strike of their weapons was fueled by the memory of their home cities, their families, their Earth that waited far away. One pilot guided his fighter into a swarm of enemy drones, destroying dozens before vanishing in a blaze. His name would be remembered, his sacrifice becoming part of the legend. The alien warlord himself entered the field, his flagship black and jagged like a shadow. Given form, it hurled storms of plasma that cut through smaller human ships, but the battleship endured every strike, answering with waves of destruction that shook the void around them. The warlord screamed curses through the comms, vowing to rip the humans apart, his voice echoing with rage, but the humans only tightened their grip on their weapons, their silence more terrifying than any threat. As the battle raged, the captain of the battleship gave a single command that would shift the fight. He ordered the activation of the core. The ship began to glow with a light that pierced the shadows. It was not the cold light of machines, but something deeper, something alive. The enemies faltered as they sought their weapons, shaking their hearts, drowning in fear, for they realized that the humans had fused their spirit into this machine. The battleship was not just steel and fire, it was the will of a world made flesh. The alien warlord launched his final weapon, a beam of pure annihilation, meant to erase the battleship from existence. The crew held their breath as the light consumed the void, but the battleship pushed forward, cutting through the storm as if driven by unseen hands. Its cannons fired in return, striking the warlord's flagship, tearing it apart piece by piece. The warlord's final scream echoed across the stars before silence claimed him and his vessel, shattered into fragments. The galaxy trembled as the light faded, leaving the battleship alone, surrounded by wreckage, its hull scarred but unbroken, its heart still burning. The humans did not cheer. They did not shout victory. Instead, they stood in silence, looking at the stars. They knew this was not the end. They knew more enemies would come. Yet something had changed forever. The galaxy had seen what Earth could do, and no one would forget it. Far across the void, in hidden worlds, the whispers spread. They spoke of the battleship as a monster, a guardian, a legend. They said it carried the fire of Earth itself, and that nothing in the galaxy could put it out. Some feared it, others respected it. But all knew the truth. The humans had carved their place among the stars, and no power could erase it now. The battleship drifted onward, carrying its crew through endless space. It was wounded, yet alive, scarred, yet unbroken. Within its halls, the humans walked with tired steps, but their eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried them through every storm. They knew the galaxy would come for them again. They knew the fight was far from over, but they also knew one simple truth: they were human, and no force in the universe could change that. The galaxy trembled when the Earth battleship arrived, but it was only the beginning, for the legend was still being written in fire and steel across the endless stars. The galaxy was silent as the massive Earth battleship stood in the middle of the star-filled void, its dark silver hull glowing under the light of distant suns, its armor scratched and scarred from battles, yet still shining with defiance. The enemies who had once mocked humanity now watched with fear and awe. No sound could be heard across space, yet every mind, every heart felt the heavy weight of what was about to unfold. The alien fleet that once surrounded Earth with the hope of crushing it was now broken, their warships either destroyed or running for survival, but still some remained desperate to fight, desperate to prove that they were still stronger. But inside their hearts they knew that the human ship was more than just steel and firepower. It was a symbol of something that could not be killed. Inside the control deck, the human commander stood tall, his eyes glowing with determination. Around him, his crew watched the giant screens that showed the alien fleet trembling in panic. The commander spoke with calm authority, telling his people that this battle was not only for Earth, but for every human soul across the stars. His words carried a power greater than any weapon they had, and it reached the hearts of those who listened. One alien general tried to rally his troops. He sent a message across the galaxy, telling them not to fear the humans, that the ship was only one vessel. But his words fell flat, for his own soldiers had already seen what this one vessel could do. It had torn apart fleets larger than any in history. It had broken through defenses thought to be unbreakable. It had stood when all odds said it should fall, and now it moved forward like a predator that knew the hunt was over. The ship opened its weapons bays, and the galaxy seemed to tremble, not from the roar of sound, but from the invisible weight of what was to come. Light surged across its cannons, energy fields built around its frame. The power it held was not only physical, but also spiritual, for behind every missile and every beam was the will of humanity, the will that refused to kneel. The first alien warship tried to charge, its cannons aiming to strike the battleship before it could fire. But the human ship responded in a flash. A single beam of searing light cut through the enemy vessel, tearing it apart into fragments that burned like small suns before fading into dust. The crew inside the Earth ship did not cheer. They did not smile. They only kept their eyes forward. They knew the battle was not yet over. More alien ships rushed forward, but they were met with a storm of fire. The battleship unleashed a rain of missiles and beams faster than eyes could follow explosions lit the void like a field of stars being born and dying in the same breath. But beyond the fire and destruction, the humans saw something greater. They saw fear spreading across the alien lines. The alien leaders realized that brute force could not save them. They tried to retreat, but the battleship moved faster than they expected. It cut across their path like a wall of steel and fire blocking their escape. And in that moment, they felt the truth that they were not facing a simple enemy. They were facing the spirit of a species that refused to die. Inside the ship, the commander gave one last order to his crew. He told them that this was the final strike, the one that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Energy surged through the vessel brighter and brighter, until even the stars seemed dim compared to its glow. Then the ship released its full power in a single blast that shook the heavens. The alien fleet shattered under the force of the blast. Ships crumbled like paper against a storm. Their shields collapsed, their weapons silenced, their cries lost in the void. And when the light faded, there was nothing left but silence and wreckage floating across the endless black. The humans stood victorious, but they did not feel pride. They felt something deeper, something heavier. They knew they had changed the galaxy. Forever the name of Earth would now echo in every corner of the stars, not as prey, not as slaves, but as a force to be feared, respected, and remembered. The commander looked at his crew, his voice steady, as he said that the war was not over, that enemies would rise again, that challenges would come again. But he reminded them that humanity had proven something today. They had shown that no matter how great the darkness, no matter how strong the enemy, the human spirit would never break. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread, whispers of the battleship, whispers of the humans who stood against impossible odds. Some feared them, some respected them, but all remembered them. And as the wreckage of the alien fleet drifted silently in space, the humans knew that their journey was only beginning. The battleship turned slowly, its engines glowing like the fire of 1,000 suns, its hull carrying the scars of victory, its crew carrying the weight of history. Behind them, Earth waited with hope and pride. Before them, the galaxy stretched wide, filled with dangers and wonders. But now, every star, every world, every race knew the truth. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The ship disappeared into the void, its shadow stretching across the stars. And the galaxy trembled, not from fear alone, but from the knowledge that a new power had risen, a power that would shape the future, a power called humanity.